Imagine this. You're at the gate, right on time. Your boarding pass is ready. You're finally relaxing because in your head, the hard part is over. You've done this 100 times. Carry-on in one hand, personal item on your shoulder. You're thinking, easy, I'm good. And then a gate agent looks at your bag and says, politely but firmly, "Hi there, can you place that in the sizer for me?" You give a quick little laugh because you're not worried. Oh, yeah, sure, it fits. It always fits. You roll the bag forward, you line it up, you drop it into the metal frame, and it stops. Not by a lot, not by something you can even see unless you're staring at it. It's just stuck. The wheel catches, the handle rubs. The front pocket, because you stuffed a hoodie in there, pushes out just enough. You try again, gently. You angle it, you twist it. You do that little move every traveler has done at least once. The agent doesn't raise their voice. They don't argue. They just say the sentence that changes your whole mood. Wheels and handles count. You swallow. Okay, if I angle it, and the agent says, calm as ever, if it doesn't slide in without force, it's not compliant. Now it's quiet. You can hear the boarding announcements behind you. You can feel the line of people. You can feel the clock. You look up and the agent tells you what you don't want to hear. It'll have to be gate checked. You start to respond because you're thinking about your laptop, your medication, your charger, your camera, the stuff you cannot risk losing. Then you hear the rest. And yes, there's a charge. That's the moment where travel stops being exciting and turns into a negotiation. Pay now or risk missing your flight. Now, let me tell you why I opened with that. Because this exact scene is becoming more common, not because there's one single global law that magically changes everything overnight, but because airlines and airports are tightening how they enforce what you bring on board, and the tolerance for close enough is disappearing. By 2026, a lot more travelers are going to learn this lesson at the worst possible time, at the gate. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to give you a complete practical system to avoid that moment. We're going to cover carry-on size, personal item size, weight limits that hit you hardest on international flights, and the rules that can actually stop you at security: liquids, electronics, power banks, and smart luggage. And then at the end, I'm going to bring you back to that same gate with the same agent, the same sizer, and a totally different outcome. Let's start with the thing that gets people trapped first: size. Most travelers think carry-on rules are about whether your suitcase looks small, like if it doesn't look huge, you're safe. That's not how enforcement works anymore. When an airline checks, they don't care about vibes. They care about the sizer. They care whether your bag fits the published dimensions, fully packed without force. A very common carry-on limit you'll see, especially with major US carriers, is 22 inches long, 14 inches wide, and 9 inches tall. And here's the part that catches people. Those measurements include wheels, handles, and anything that sticks out. Not just the fabric shell, not just the inside compartment, the entire outside footprint. This is where people get tricked by carry-on marketing. A suitcase can be labeled carry-on and still fail the sizer depending on the airline, the aircraft, and how tightly they enforce it. Some bags are designed to be right on the edge, and the moment you overpack the front pocket, that edge becomes a failure. So if you take one thing from this entire video, take this: your carry-on size is not what the brand says it is. It's what the tape measure says it is when the bag is packed like you're actually traveling. Here's the simplest way to think about it. The only measurement that matters is outside to outside at the widest points. That means you measure the height, including wheels. You measure the width, including side bulges. You measure the depth, including that front pocket that looks harmless until you stuff it full. If your bag has a telescoping handle, the handle counts if it sticks out. If the bag has a rigid back panel, that counts. If the wheels add an inch, that inch counts. And that brings us to the 2026 effect. Even if an airline's posted numbers don't change dramatically, what changes is how often you're asked to prove you fit the rule. That's the real shift. It's not always a new rule, it's stricter enforcement, more gate checks, more sizers, more fees, and less room for argument. So how do you protect yourself? You pack for the strictest reasonable standard you're likely to face. If you travel across multiple airlines or you fly domestic sometimes and international other times, you don't want a suitcase that only works in a best-case scenario. You want a suitcase that passes when someone is actually paying attention. Now, let's talk about the bag that matters even more than your carry-on, your personal item. Your personal item is not a cute extra, it's your lifeboat. Because here's what happens on full flights. Even perfectly compliant carry-ons get gate-checked when overhead bins are full, or when you're on a smaller aircraft, or when boarding is chaotic. It might be free, it might not, but either way, if your carry-on gets taken from you at the last second, whatever you didn't put in your personal item becomes inaccessible for hours. That's why the personal item rule is becoming the real battlefield. The underseat space is limited, and airlines are starting to enforce that too. A common personal item size limit you'll see is around 18 by 14 by 8 inches. That's basically a slim backpack, a soft tote, or a laptop bag, something that can compress. And compression is the key word. If you choose a rigid personal item, you're gambling with the shape of the seat in front of you, the placement of the support bars, and the airline's mood that day. A soft-sided bag gives you forgiveness. It lets you slide, tuck, and adjust. It lets you fit under seats that don't match the ideal in your head. So here's how you should treat your personal item from now on. It's the bag that must always stay with you. It's the bag that holds the things you cannot lose, cannot check, and cannot risk being separated from. That means your personal item should carry your essentials in a way that still passes under-seat rules. Your passport, wallet, medication, keys, your laptop, and the charger you actually need, not the one you hope you'll remember later. Your power bank, because power banks do not belong in checked baggage, a small hygiene kit that follows liquid rules, and one layer of clothing in case the cabin is freezing or your checked bag ends up somewhere else. If your carry-on gets gate-checked, your personal item is what keeps your travel day from turning into a crisis. Now, we need to talk about the rule that surprises people the most, especially when they leave the US: weight limits. In the US, carry-on weight isn't always aggressively enforced. Internationally, it absolutely can be, and it can hit you hard because the numbers are lower than you think. 7 kilos, 8 kilos, sometimes 10. Those numbers sound generous until you realize what a laptop, a charger, a camera, and a power bank weigh before you even pack clothes. This is why people get blindsided at international check-in or at the gate. Their bag fits the size rule, so they relax, but the airline is weighing carry-ons. And if you're over, you don't get a gentle try again. You get a forced check, sometimes with a fee, sometimes with a repack right there in public, and sometimes with a strict "this must be checked." So how do you beat weight limits without stress? First, choose a lighter bag. Some hard-shell suitcases are heavy before you add anything. Heavy wheels, thick shells, bulky handles, they eat your weight allowance. A lighter bag gives you more usable weight for your stuff. Second, move dense items to the personal item, carefully. Electronics are dense, a laptop is dense, a camera is dense. If your airline allows a carry-on and a personal item, distribute weight across both, but keep the personal item within the underseat size so you don't trade one problem for another. Third, wear the heavy items. If you're traveling with boots, a coat, a hoodie, or anything bulky, your body is the best suitcase you own. Wear it through the airport. You can always take it off on the plane. This simple trick can drop your carry-on weight by 1 kilo or 2 instantly. And fourth, weigh your bag at home. Don't let the airport be the first time you find out. A small travel scale costs way less than a gate fee or a forced check. If you weigh at home, you control the situation. If you weigh at the airport, the airline controls the situation.
Now, liquids. Liquids are the most confusing rule on Earth because travelers keep hearing that it's changing. Some airports are installing new CT scanners that can change what you remove from your bag and, in some places, may eventually allow larger quantities of liquids. But the key word is some. It's not universal, it's not synchronized, and it's not reliable enough to bet your whole travel day on. So here is the safe approach, especially for 2026. Pack like the classic 3-1-1 rule still applies unless your specific airport and your specific security lane clearly says otherwise. That means liquids, gels, and aerosols in containers that are 3.4 ounces or 100 milliliters or less, all in a single quart-sized bag, easy to pull out. Why do I say this so strongly? Because the worst-case scenario is not that you packed too carefully. The worst-case scenario is that you assume the new scanners will save you, you pack full-sized liquids, and then you hit a lane that still enforces the old rule. Suddenly, you're throwing away expensive items or holding up the line, stressed while people stare. Pack for the strict rule, and if the airport is more relaxed, you just get an easier experience. That's the mindset. Strict by default, pleasantly surprised when it's easier. Now, electronics. This is the part people don't take seriously until it happens. Some security authorities can ask you to power on your devices. That means if your phone, laptop, or tablet is dead and it won't turn on, you could be delayed, or in some places, you might not be allowed to take the device on board. So the rule here is simple. Charge your devices before you travel. Don't show up with a dead laptop and hope nobody asks. And if you're carrying older devices, make sure they still boot. It's not just about convenience, it's about compliance. And now the big one, power banks and lithium batteries. This is where travelers get their items confiscated, or worse, where they accidentally create a safety issue. Power banks, spare lithium batteries, and anything like that should be carried in the cabin, not checked. If you check a bag and you've left a power bank inside it, that can become a serious problem. And if your carry-on gets gate checked at the last second, you must remove power banks and spare batteries before you hand the bag over. Keep them with you. Also, pay attention to watt hours because airlines can limit how large a power bank is allowed and how many spare batteries you can carry. Most travelers never look at the label, but it matters. If your power bank is huge and unlabeled, you're increasing your risk of getting stopped. Now, smart luggage. Smart suitcases are cool until they aren't. If your suitcase has a built-in battery for charging, tracking, or powering features, the battery generally needs to be removable, because if the airline forces you to check the bag or if the bag goes under the plane, batteries create complications. A removable battery lets you comply by taking the battery with you into the cabin. So if you own smart luggage, do a quick test before your next trip. Can you remove the battery easily? Can you show the watt hours? Can you carry it separately if needed? If not, that smart luggage is going to turn into stress luggage. Now we need to talk about what happens at the gate, because even if your bag is perfect, overhead bin space is not guaranteed. Here's the truth. Overhead bins are not unlimited. Boarding groups matter, aircraft size matters, a full flight changes the rules of the game, and a lot of the tension you see on planes comes from people trying to protect overhead bin space like it's a scarce resource, because it is. So how do you win the overhead bin situation without drama? You design your packing so you don't need to win. That's the mindset shift. If your carry-on gets gate checked, you're still okay. If overhead bins fill up, you're still okay. If the agent says we're checking bags, you don't panic because your essentials are already under the seat. That means you pack your personal item with intention, not random, not whatever fits, intention. You keep valuables and must-have items in your personal item. You keep power banks and spare batteries in the cabin. You keep medication with you. You keep one layer with you. And you keep your bag soft and compressible so it fits under the seat without turning into a wrestling match. You also pack your carry-on in a fast stow way. No dangling straps, no overstuffed front pocket, no weird attachments that catch attention. If you can lift it, place it, and close the bin quickly, you look like a pro, and you avoid the awkward moment where people stare while you fight with the door. Now, let's zoom out and talk about what 2026 really means in practical terms. It doesn't mean one universal rule. It means you're traveling into an era where enforcement and consistency are shifting. Some airports are upgrading scanners, some are not. Some airlines are cracking down on personal item size because passengers have been pushing it for years. Low-cost carriers have built business models around bag fees, and travelers are still acting like they can show up with close enough and talk their way through. That's why the winning move is not trying to guess what will change. The winning move is building a system that works under the strictest common scenario. So here is that system, in a simple, voice-friendly way.
First, measure your carry-on the correct way, outside to outside, fully packed, including wheels, handles, and bulges. If you can't confidently say it fits within a common standard like 22 by 14 by 9 inches, treat it as risky, especially if it's stuffed. Second, treat your personal item like your survival kit. Keep it soft, keep it under-seat friendly, pack it with your essentials so if your carry-on disappears for any reason, your day doesn't collapse. Third, if you fly internationally, assume your carry-on can be weighed. Pack for 7 to 10 kilograms depending on airline, and weigh at home so you're not improvising under pressure. Fourth, pack liquids like the classic 3-1-1 rule still applies unless you're explicitly told otherwise at your specific airport. This avoids the chaos of mismatched rules across different lanes and different airports. Fifth, charge your devices. If someone asks you to turn something on, you want zero drama. Sixth, keep power banks and spare lithium batteries with you in the cabin and be ready to remove them if your carry-on gets gate checked. Seventh, if you use smart luggage, make sure the battery is removable and labeled. Now, let's go back to the gate. Same airport, same crowded boarding area, same sizer sitting there like a trap. The agent is standing in the same place, people are lining up, you're holding your bags. But this time, everything feels different. Because you already measured your carry-on at home, you already made sure it fits when packed. You didn't overstuff the front pocket. You didn't attach random extras that make the bag bigger. You made it clean. And your personal item is soft. It's under-seat sized. It holds your essentials. If the carry-on gets taken from you, you're still fine. You step forward and the agent says, "Hi, quick size check please." And you smile because there's no fear in you now. Absolutely. You place the carry-on into the sizer, and it slides in. No twisting, no pushing, no awkward silence, no line staring, no bargaining. The agent nods, almost bored, because this is what compliance looks like. Perfect, you're good. You pick it up, you walk forward, and the tension that used to live in your shoulders is gone. Because here's what most people don't understand until they get hit with a fee. The goal isn't to try and get away with it. The goal is to build a travel setup that never puts you in that situation. You step onto the plane, your personal item goes under the seat easily, your carry-on goes up top if there's room, and if there isn't, it doesn't ruin your day, because your essentials are already with you. And that's the whole point of this video. Don't gamble with "it usually fits." Don't wait to learn the rules at the gate. Measure your bag correctly, pack for the strictest scenario, keep your essentials under the seat, know your liquids, charge your devices, treat power banks like the serious item they are, make smart luggage actually smart by ensuring the battery is removable. Because by 2026, the airport is not getting more forgiving, it's getting more precise. If you want, tell me in a comment what airline you fly most and what route you're taking, domestic or international, and I'll tell you the strictest carry-on and personal item approach to pack for so you're covered. And if this script saved you from one gate fee, one forced check, or one missed flight, share it with the friend who always says, "It's fine, they never check." Because someday, they will.